Hello, hello, hello. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. So, listen, this is being recorded. I apologize. I didn't change the name at the bottom. It says live. We are not live, not this time. We are recorded. Today is Friday, April the
Not this time.
25th. Yes, 25th. And I am Keisha, one half of the host of the Regal Mindset podcast show. Jay, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Absolutely. I am Joy, the coach. I am the
Okay.
other half of the Regal Mindset Show. I am your coach, your mystic, your millionaire, and your mindset transformer.
I love it. I love it. Great introduction. So listen, tonight we're going to talk about a subject that, I'm sure you've seen on your social media timeline. We're going to title it "Graced by God," and we're going to talk
Mhm.
about what kind of level of grace God would have to offer you to do some of the things that this young lady shared with. This is just a snippet. We're going to show a snippet of the podcast show. I have not seen the entire interview, but I have seen a good portion of it. And this woman seems to be incredible. But we'll go ahead and Jay, you got a perspective you want to add on this before we?
Well, yes, because they came back after this
Hmm.
because their message wasn't received
Right.
correctly, and they wanted to make some clarifications. So I can bring that up after we watch the clip.
Sure. Sure. I love it. Okay. Right. Well, if no further discussion or pre warning, let's go ahead and listen.
From that moment. I got in my word, under my word. I just completely changed as a person. And I realized that God loves me, that God has a purpose and plan for my life, that God chose me, that I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Yeah. So he would call me out my name. It wouldn't bother me because I allowed God's voice to be louder than his. And when I was going through transition of him not coming home on the weekends, not being there, telling me I hate you, I'll never love you, I wish I never married you, I knew that life and death is in the power of the tongue through the word of God. So I would say, you will love me one day. We will have a good marriage one day. And although he would go out for weekends, I would literally help him get ready to go meet a side chick by ironing his clothes and getting him ready for the night. And these are all things I was graced to do. I would not encourage anybody to do that unless you are graced by God to do this. But once I knew who I was, I realized, oh,
Listen.
Yeah, yeah, no.
I'm sure when she said those words, when they came across her lips, she had to have known this may
That
backfire.
it wasn't gonna go right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, listen, so again, this particular portion comes from the the podcast called, I think it's called Dear Future Wife.
Yeah.
Wifey, I'm sorry.
Mhm.
And I follow this guy on YouTube. He has great, amazing content. Uh, I love the way he kind of sets things up and the type of guests that he has on there. So, what's your first thought, or what was your first thought when you heard this? And they've got quite a few uh,
Mhm.
reels regarding this show. But what was your thoughts?
She a dummy.
Oh yeah, okay,
Yeah, I mean
check that
that's
out.
it. Yeah, because I understand, but I don't understand. I understand because I came from that type of church that
Ah,
women love your husbands, do what your husbands say. Do I came up under that type of church, so I
right.
understand. I have empathy. However, nobody told you that to be stupid either. And so I get what she's saying in the aspect of I loved him to love me. I loved
And
him
her
enough
husband.
to make him love me. It's almost like I'll keep doing this because eventually he will see me. And then there's a scripture that says, if your husband is unsaved, love him or some. I got to find that scripture. It's stupid too. But at the end of the day, I understand what she was saying. But what she didn't say was the time frame that all of this happened in.
Mm-hmm.
They've been married over 30 plus years, and she was given the first couple of years of their marriage,
Mm-hmm.
not the latter. So apparently things are better. However, no, absolutely not. There's no way that I'm ironing your clothes to go see your side chick.
Mm-hmm.
Not with you in, not you got to be in them for me to iron them because I'm ironing you and the clothes. Like I don't understand how women can position themselves to say that they operated in a place of grace. Grace runs out. You only get a couple of days of grace period on your credit card. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
heck, you don't get no grace period on your mortgage. So grace runs out. And I don't understand how she can conceptualize that thought of being such a submissive wife, a dutiful wife, a woman of virtue, to tolerate all of that and say, oh, he said he hate me. No, you love me in the name of Jesus. Absolutely. No, I'm not using Jesus' name. I'm using grits. I'm using bleach.
Okay. Okay.
And maybe
So,
that's just me.
right. No, I think some of the people who saw that will probably come to the same conclusion.
Especially the
My
younger generation. They're getting ate
Yeah,
up in the
yeah. I don't
digital
know very
age.
many women. Let me get that off top. I don't know very many women, even in this day and age, right, who are married, whether they're just starting out in their marriage, who would offer their husband that kind of grace, right?
Mm,
Especially coming from a place where it sounds like she knew she was preparing him for someone else's daughter, not herself.
mm,
Um, so I think so. For me, let me back up a little bit more. When she said that, I thought to myself, okay, this woman got married under the understanding that there's going to be trials, tribulations. There's, your marriage is not going to be perfect. There's things that are going to happen that either you can live with, you can't, and you're going to have to adjust. And you're most definitely going to have to rely a lot upon the faith that you have as a individual and the faith that you guys collectively build as a unit, and the faith, the relationship that you have with God. And it sounds like in that season, when she was doing those things and to some degree serving her husband in that way, she was relying more so on the grace of God, not necessarily
mm.
on the human actions of her husband. Although she prayed for him, which is what you should do, right? So if we're married, I'm married, and you are as well. You always have to pray for your wife. I pray over my
Mhm.
wife all the time, not just for the fact that she's over the road driver, but even prior to that,
Right.
and she prays over me as well. So for her, I think in that season, that's the best thing that she could do with that scenario, trusting God that God was going to deliver him when his time was called, right? In the
Right.
sense that, okay, I need you to go through these things because these things are the things that are going to make you the person I need for her, right?
Mhm.
And I think that's where her trust came from, not necessarily him. That's where she trusted God more
Yeah,
so than she trusted her husband.
I get it. I'm 100% on board with that. But I would question her mental.
Mm,
There's not much love that allows me to be the abused on purpose.
mm-hmm,
And that's not the kind of God that I know that we serve, that we hear about. God is love,
mm-hmm,
point blank, period. Nothing he did in those beginning stages of their relationship represented love.
mm-hmm,
So I can't give you that honor if you are not honoring God by honoring me. That
mm,
is, first of all, marriage is a construct anyway.
mm-hmm,
But since we entered into this agreement, into this institution, let's abide by some rules. Now, if we establish this as a poly relationship, that's something different.
mm-hmm.
If he
Open it.
was a pimp and she was the bottom one, that's understood. But what I can't seem to gather my thoughts around is there's no way God said any of that.
Mm-hmm,
Now, I understand about being in an abusive relationship and sometimes you mentally can't get away. I get that. You
mm-hmm,
willingly stayed. That there's no There's no servanthood in that. There's no valor. You may feel that you're winning now, but that man tired and old. We don't know what happened. He could have got hepatitis, as far as we know. And he was like, you know what? I need to slow down. So it's like we don't know what caused him to turn around. He could have got sick and she was the only one there. We have seen that in Tyler Perry movies.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It takes men, a situation has to happen for them to realize, even when they're in their children's life, they all late and feel that, hey, there's still time. No, absolutely not. And I can't be a person that believes in God and can justify that God gave you that to deal with that. I can't, because you never in the interviews. I wasn't there in your life, but in the interviews, nobody said you couldn't leave. He didn't hold you hostage. He told you he didn't want you. He told you he didn't like you. There's no way that me being a woman of God can accept that on any level. Like, I would have to leave and then you get your life together and maybe we could see about getting back together. But you disrespected the person you took a vow to. It's as if you're disrespecting God, but then you want God to bless it and you want God to cover it. That's a conflict of interest.
Mm-hmm.
I can't understand that. I understand she may be from the old school. You're going to stick with him. He's mine. I'm going to stick beside him. I get that. But there has to be some accountability and responsibility in the decision you made.
Mm-hmm.
You have to say, no, I stayed and I just prayed and I just believed God that he would turn around for me. That I can accept.
Mm-hmm.
Not God gave you, yet you worked through grace and you prayed every time he cussed you out. No, I would have cut his throat. Even Celia got tired at some point.
That is true.
Like that's not and I'm again, and I apologize if I'm being judgmental, because I am. There's no way that you can say that that's okay. That is a mental, emotional distress and oppression and just a lot. And no, I can't see that.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you had children by this man, which I believe they did, there's no way that you're going to do me that manner. And I allowed it for the hopes that you're going to give me your best. You gave her your best. You giving me what's left over, and that's not fair.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been in that type of relationship before. No, absolutely not. That's no way. That's not God. God gives you his best. He said, for God so loved the world, he gave his first thing that he gave us. Why can I interpret that as any type of love and relationship modeled after God? Because you can't justify that. And I would hate for someone who maybe is in that situation with the hopes that their husband just going to change and turn around for them, or their wife going to change it. No, this is not Hosea. Mm-hmm. Hosea was the only one that God said, go marry that whore and take care of them kids, because that's what she was.
So I want to add two things from that, just a little bit more context about the gentleman. From what I understood from that interview, he was a man that was in the streets, right?
And a pastor.
Yes, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
I think he became a pastor later on. But when he was treating his wife in that way that she's referring to in the clip we just saw, he was in the street. And something happened. I don't know that I don't recall if he goes into a lot of detail, but he was spending some time in jail where he was incarcerated for some period of time. And in that time is when he asked God, said, listen, if you can get me out of this, I'll do, everything I need to do to serve you. You know how those stories go. Sometimes when we're facing some really tough time, or looking at time behind bars, or spending some time away, then that's when we want to ask God for all these favors,
right,
all these
things. Do
right, absolutely. So that's when he the thing shifted for them in there, and in his life, let me say that. And then upon doing that, that's when he started treating his wife better, in terms of their marriage, and honoring her in a way that he should have been doing all this time.
Right.
So if we know that, right, based on, again, what he talked about in that same interview, then that's what the wife was praying for, right? Never, okay,
Hmm.
he's out of pocket right now, right?
Out
But
of
I
pocket.
know God put us together for a reason, right? So
Right.
we may not always see that vision right in the beginning today, or we may not see that vision every day within our marriage. But if we trust God, when we set our vows and we say, okay, till death do us part, and so on and so forth, whatever, your vows are your vows, your agreement between each other, and then what you agree to under God. That's who she was leaning on during that season in their marriage. That's what I
Hmm.
believe. And that is what got her through to the place where he had his situation that God had to deal with him individually, so that he could then realize that, okay, I am completely out of pocket here, and I need to fix myself. And this is how I'm going to fix myself. In which case, that's when he started getting into the church, and he started, the path
Hmm.
upon becoming a pastor or a minister, within his situation. So even with that said, I think for her, definitely God gave
What you
her
want.
a lot of grace to be able
Yeah.
to handle that emotionally, right? Because that tears away
Hmm.
at your self-esteem and how you view yourself, especially if you're looking at it from a place where, God, you gave me this man, but this man is only doing things that are abusive to me, that are not in good favor, that are
Right.
not of you. But she still has to have the trust and the faith of just a little mustard seed to be able to say, okay, I know you didn't bring me this man for no reason. That's the place I think I'm able to offer her grace and a little bit more understanding,
Yeah.
because she has the strength that I cannot sit here and tell you that I would have been able to do that. Matter of fact,
Right.
okay, I no, I would not have
Right.
done that, in all honesty and all transparency. And so does that make me flawed, or does that make my relationship with God flawed because I
No.
don't have that level of,
Yeah.
you know
Yeah. I don't. Now that no. That's why it's from what I would do. You can't tell me to make me justify that. So I get what you're saying.
yeah,
But let me ask you this.
yeah,
What if it's the case of you saw that person's potential
okay,
than their ability? Because we know, even as lesbians, we look at potential more than we look at ability.
yeah,
Then on top, and then women look at potential. Oh, I know he has a potential of being a great man, but
yeah,
right now he's a crackhead.
yeah,
I, my mom was like that.
yeah,
She knew her second husband was a crackhead. No, wait, second, third. Which one he was? Third. She knew her third husband was a pure crack. I'm talking about walk down the street with a big back 36-inch screen TV on the shoulder.
yeah,
I remember that. So
yeah,
it's like you were so in love with the potential. You were so in love with the idea that the ability of that person was not there.
mhm,
Now, I'm not saying God can't change your heart when a person changes their heart, but for him to be so free to disrespect you, insult you, hurt you in the manner that he did, his ability to love you was never there in the beginning. Now,
mhm,
did it grow? I could say that because you did plant seeds of love, seeds of all of that into your relationship. I get that part. But do you feel that sometimes we look at the potential over the actual ability and we create a narrative around the potential of a person?
gotcha. So yes, to answer your question, you're absolutely right, and we've talked about this just briefly on some other episodes in regards to, when you're marrying a person, you're really marrying the person that you know today, and based on,
Mhm.
the length of time that you spent investing in that relationship, you're making a lifelong decision based on what you know in this portion of time, right, or
Right,
this part of time. And what you're hoping is that they're listening to God, right, for guidance and for, um, help, to in order to be able to be of a helpmate to that
right,
other person. right? And same thing with the other individual, right? You're hoping that that person is listening to God and that they're showing up and doing the work that's required to bring their best self forward, and likewise, right? That's what we hope would
Right.
happen. So but oftentimes what does happen is we see that potential, and because maybe one of the two doesn't feel as though they have to bring forth their best version of themselves, it's okay. It's okay. We've been doing all right with me giving you 60% and you giving 80%, and we're comfortable. We have a decent lifestyle and we love
Mhm.
each other and so on and so forth. So yes, some people do marry, and they marry for the potential that they see in the other person.
Mhm.
Is that a healthy marriage? It's not for me to say. Is that something that I've done? I'm sure at some point, I've dated someone for the potential, or what have you, and then later found out that that person just did not have the strength or the capacity to love me in the way in which I need to feel love and to be loved, right? Um, I think what happens oftentimes, especially in the LGBT community, um, well, I can't even say LGBT. I would say young adults. We don't always have the tools necessary to be in a healthy, effective relationship, right? Because one, most times we're already broken, but it takes another person in a relationship to bring those things out of us so that we can look at them and be like, okay, um, this is us assessing ourselves. You know what? Maybe I should fix
Mhm.
that, right? But if without that relationship, those things may or may not show up, right?
Right.
So I think it takes relationships and multiple relationships to be able to learn who you are, what it is you like about yourself, spend time with yourself, and we don't necessarily always do that. So I retract the fact that I said the LGBT community. I would say young adults. We don't
Yeah.
always give ourselves enough time or grace, I'll even say, right, to be able to go through those motions or through those phases in life that are necessary to be able to be a healthy person when you meet your person, right?
Right.
Because then you should be able to discern whether or not, you know what, this person is gaslighting me, or this person is showing me their representative. And I know from experience not to fall for the okie doke. You
Well,
feel me?
see, it's almost like when people say, "Okay, we might as well get married because we've been together this long." That's not
Mm,
always a reason.
right.
Or I love her because she always been there for me because you was in jail. That's not necessarily a reason. But then we look at say that's just a part of our community. But then
Right.
when you look at certain higher class communities, especially on the white side,
Mm-hmm.
they marry for future. Like, for
Mm,
example, I'm not saying John F. Kennedy did not love his wife. She was a beautiful woman.
right.
The one he wanted wasn't right for the presidency.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just like when Bill Clinton, we know he was a hoe all his life. But when he got married, he knew the relationship with her family, Hillary's family, was going to be beneficial for where he wanted to go. So
Absolutely.
it wasn't based on potential. All of the women I'm pretty sure they was with had great potential to be their wife, but
Yeah.
they wasn't the chosen person because you won't have the ability to put me in the arena that I want to be in.
Mm-hmm.
And what if we looked at things like that? I actually seen an interview with Oprah and Tracy Ross.
Yeah.
And they asked her, did you see that one?
Yeah. I
And
saw
they
it. Yeah.
asked her, yeah, and
Well, I just
about
thank
the
you.
whole marriage thing. And I'm like, she made such a good point. She said,
Mm-hmm.
if I would have got married, I wouldn't be here. That hit me so hard because I would say some people, especially like the way I was raised, marriage was your goal. That's almost the children, having children was your end goal. So I never dreamed of getting married. I thought about getting married, but it was to a man because that was what it was expected of me. That's the
Mm-hmm.
church I was in. You're gonna
Mm-hmm.
marry a man, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So that's what I had wrapped my head around, even though I did not want to be married. I didn't. That never was a thought.
Mm-hmm.
What ended up being a thought? When I met my wife, I wanted to get married at that point. But understanding marriage now, I see it didn't even have to necessarily be that way because we still could have the joys of everything that we have in an extremely committed relationship. Is just was the piece of paper.
Yeah.
It's only different. It didn't add anything extra
Mm-hmm.
because when it came down to my daughter, I still had to adopt her either way it go.
Yeah.
So it didn't add anything extra. Now that I understand it different, but for a lot of people, marriage is the goal, not necessarily because back then it was being a wife was your goal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now then it became being married was your goal, and especially in the Black community because they didn't care if that man was a dog. Like the Aretha Franklin movie, he slept with a 12-year-old. But before he was like, you can't take care of them kids by yourself. It was the whole thing about having a man in the house supposedly gave all of these graces, and it didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Having a
like
man is better than having no man. That's what they used to say in
exactly,
the songs. Yeah.
exactly. And so it's almost like we have to change that whole ideal and say, you know what? Even though I may not get a divorce is okay. Because what if that person is the reason why you did not reach your full potential because you saw
Yep.
potential, jumped out there, got married, and now your ass stuck.
Mm-hmm.
Or you had got pregnant, you married him, and you know good and well. And now y'all done wasted all of this time with each other trying to
Mm-hmm.
make it work. So we have to look at it like that's the reason why I'm looking at it like, okay, I wish she would have had no, this is her story, this is her
Yeah.
testimony. But if I was in her place, the first day you walked out, I would have been going out too.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't be going out to meet nobody. I wouldn't have never came back
Mm-hmm.
because I can't take that level of disrespect and say, well, I'm just a whole lot. I don't need love that much.
Right.
I'm good either way. Either I
Yeah.
can be in a relationship or I can be out and I'm happy either one. I
Yeah.
don't have to have it. And I think if you, like you said, with the younger people, a lot of them are getting married for better reasons.
Okay.
And some are getting married because they realize that it's a partnership,
Uh-huh.
not a love affair. Because what if you don't feel love every day? I
True.
love my wife every day because I stand with her. I chose to stand with her. But sometimes I be wanting to push her down the stairs. Is that love right there?
I would think
But
that's a different kind of love,
yeah, it's a
right?
physical love. You know, and sometimes you feel like that. So if you could be real with yourself and say, you know what? If I didn't get married, I may not have had, I would probably wouldn't have had this experience with this particular child that I have, but I could have had another experience with a child. So it's like you still could have had the same, a better experience.
Yeah. I get
And
that.
yeah, Oprah said it best. She was like, and then too, what's her name?
Tracy Ellis Ross.
Kamala. Yeah, no, Kamala said it too. And the white lady was like, some people aspire to be mothers. She's like, well, everybody don't aspire to do that,
Yeah.
to be humble.
Yeah.
No, everybody don't aspire to be that. You have to be okay with what if your highest self called you to be the top general in the United States Army or whatever branch,
Yeah.
but you couldn't get there dragging a husband who's jealous of what you can be.
True.
What if you needed to get there to meet the husband that y'all on the same level? Now we're talking about equally yoked because both of y'all can carry that same type of weight.
Yeah.
But you want to be married so bad to your high school sweetheart, you never aspired to your highest self because you stuck with him.
Yeah.
And you just making it work.
Yeah. I agree. I think what differs for me is that when I was a young lady, growing up, I never saw myself really getting married, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't because I knew it was either one or two things, right? I was going to be either really successful and suck at love or really good at love and suck at being successful. I did not think, or nor could I comprehend a world where I could do and achieve both successfully and live what I feel like would be a happy life.
Right.
On the flip side of that, I do understand that we're all human having a human experience. And although we intentionally, I hope, marry somebody who is for us, sometimes even in those places, from a genuine place, two people can grow apart, right?
Yeah.
And like you said, there's times where marriage, depending on the two people, can be restrictive, in the sense that if I'm not able to fulfill my full self or my full capabilities, because I'm married and I have obligations, here and there, and so on and so forth. And the same for your partner or your wife. I do
Mhm.
believe that those things exist. What I think some people lack in terms of being able to communicate that, right,
Right.
without it sounding like, listen, I love you, you may or may not be my person, however you want to word it, but there's also things that I need for myself to be able to do that may not look like us being married, right?
Yeah.
And so some people will define their marriage differently, or their friendship or their relationship. So I get the long term, or what's it, common law marriage or
Mhm.
whatever, the
Right.
long term partnerships. I get all of that, right? And whatever works for you guys. But I think, again, what needs to happen is people need to have or normalize having conversations that are hard, because you may not even know all of the ins and you may not know everything and what you need, right? But as you grow and mature, there's different things that you need now that you didn't need 10 years ago, 5 years ago.
Exactly. And if you can accept growing apart, if you can accept outgrowing each other, because you can grow apart and you can just outgrow each other.
Yeah.
Because what if the person you married in high school didn't decide to grow up?
Mm,
Or let's talk about it in the LGBT world, where your partner decides to transition.
good
I
point.
can love you and support you, but that doesn't mean I'm transitioning with you.
True.
If we was originally lesbians and you decide to want to become a man and you want me to identify as straight, that might not work for me. So there's a lot of different variables that makes you look at, like, okay, I thought we was going to be together for a long time, but we are going to be together because we built a relationship. Let's enjoy what we built. Let's celebrate that we lasted this long, but let's give each other the real grace to go and love somebody else that can love you where you're at now,
Mm-hmm.
because I can't commit to that.
Mm-hmm.
And that should not be it's a hurtful thing, but it shouldn't be so damaging. I would rather you go and be happy. And me and my wife had that conversation. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
if I'm not the one that makes you happy, okay, let's find out what you need to make you happy.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point.
And if this is where you need to go, I support you. Now,
Mm-hmm.
granted, when we had that conversation, she didn't take it so well, because she's like, so you're just gonna let me go? Yeah, because not that I don't care. I would forever
Right.
love you. But you got to understand, I don't respond to emotions like that. So I'm like, hey, just let me know how we splitting these bills. If you're gonna take the card, then this is how much that car note is. If you're gonna do, let's split it. And she was like, you're not it. And we had to learn again how to talk to each other. But in the same sense, I was like, I'm not gonna fight for you in that aspect when you just told me I can't fulfill these certain things. Okay, well then maybe you need to be where you're fulfilled, because I can't fight for you on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And okay, and if people really look at relationships and say a relationship is a ship that sails, so
It's going somewhere.
we can either be on the boat together
Mm-hmm.
or we can separate. How many people got divorced and got back together and made a more successful life?
Mm-hmm.
How some people are better off divorced. And I know that, especially to the church, that's a hard word, because, oh, no, divorce is not on the table. No, it's on the table, because if we realize that we cannot mesh this together, why are we stressing each other out?
Yeah.
Why we just can't savor what we have, be the best parents, be the best friends, and I support you in your happiness.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
Yeah.
And I don't think many people can have that conversation, because it's either be with me or I'm gonna be with you, or we're gonna be together. No,
I 100% hear you, and you're absolutely right. I would agree that also in the LGBT community, those are conversations that are
need
difficult
to
one
have.
to have, and especially if people are not mature enough to understand. We don't possess. We don't like. I don't have possessions. I don't own my wife. I don't know where she is all the time. And there used to be a
I know where mine at life's 360.
Okay, well, look, we don't even do that. But some people, or or especially the kids, they would used to say,
Yeah.
"How you don't know where your wife?" And I'm like, "Well, she know her way home. She'll be here eventually." And that's just what it is. I don't, but that's how I feel.
Yeah.
She would feel very different from that. And a
Yeah.
very good point that you mentioned, and a couple that reminds me of that is Will Smith and Jada Pinkett. I saw an
Yeah.
interview with her today, where she was on the podcast. I think it's called. Directly from the CEO or something like that. Great interviewer as well, and she talks about that. That she was so unhappy in her relationship or her marriage, because she felt as though and these are her words, that she continued to pour into her husband while he go on and fulfill his dreams and be happy
Hmm.
and explore and do all of the things that he needs to, in the exchange for at some point that he was just going to give her time to connect and to bond and to build
Hmm.
a relationship, which is ultimately what she wanted, all along. But when she had those conversations with him, it sounded like he gave her permission, right? Which is why we saw, and
Augusta and
right,
August,
people
whatever his name.
people
Yeah.
had all these things to say about their marriage, but they're figuring out what their
It
marriage should
works for
mean
them.
and be for them. Jada Pinkett, thought when her husband gave her permission to go off and do whatever makes her happy, she took that offensively. And she basically was saying that, how is it that I gave you all of this time and this energy and I poured into you so much, and she realized that it's because he was going to do the things that made him happy, which is why he was happy. And that
Hmm.
Will Smith, was not responsible for her happiness. It took her
Not.
some years to understand that. And that him giving her permission to go on and do what she needed to do for herself means, or looks like, for maybe their marriage, right? And this apparently works for them. She, has her life, they have their life, they're still a
Hmm.
family, right? But she shows up for him in that way when it's necessary. And it sounded like they live two very different lives.
Yeah.
But that works for them. They do, or she does what she needs to do to make herself happy now. And that doesn't look like what we are traditionally deem appropriate marriage, I'll say,
Yeah, because
'cause it looks
people,
different.
we've been conditioned to
Yeah.
believe that that person is your happiness. And I'm like, no, you should be happy before you got here so that we can
Right.
be happy together.
Right.
And then we can go and do more stuff. But if
Yeah.
I'm spending all of my time trying to make you happy, I am now depleted
Yeah.
because all we're focused on is your happiness. And that's not fair.
Yeah. And here's
Like,
another thing. They may not even know what makes them happy.
exactly. Because it's like, even it's that's when the compatibility comes in.
Yeah.
Because I like to fish. I love to fish. I can go out there and sit for hours catching something that's extra. But I love to go.
I get it.
She, it was at one point because me and my wife had this conversation, and it was like, we don't like nothing each other. I did what you like to do because as the person that was pursuing you,
Yeah.
I did it. I don't like musicals, but I made sure I took that. I did enjoy this one musical. I took her to see Cinderella when Nene Leakes was the evil stepmother. I think it was so good. And
Okay.
we went up to the New York and the Broadway.
Yeah.
Excellent job. So I would say that, but that was her thing.
Okay.
But I did it because that was your thing. But when
Right.
it came time for my thing, it was all hell no, I don't like it, I don't want it. And I'm like, wait a minute. I didn't say anything
Right.
about what you wanted to do, whether
Yeah.
I liked it or not. It
Yeah.
wasn't for me to share that I didn't like it. It was for me to make sure that you're enjoying every experience you can with me.
Right.
Again, that's not about me making you happy. Happiness is a state of mind,
Yeah.
a state of heart. I can't do that for you. But what I can do is give you an experience that we can both enjoy together.
Yeah.
And if that's not good enough for you, if you don't like number one, we'll go be number two to somebody else. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, because I can't, I'm past that. I seen my mama do it. And
Yeah.
that's the place I didn't want to be. I
Yeah.
don't want to trade everything I got for your happiness.
Yeah.
That's not fair.
Yeah.
And so if we can look at stuff like that and like, listen, this relationship, I don't even know who I am because all I see is you.
Yeah.
No, is that realistic?
Right. Well, and that's a great point because she brought that up as well in the sense that she lost herself because she was so busy pouring into Will and pouring into that, thinking that she was going to get a return on her investment, but it never happened.
And
But
then
what
they
she
had no
didn't
interest rate.
right. Listen, what she didn't realize is that she needed to be her whole self first, like you said, and she didn't know how to do that. She didn't know what that looked like. Right. So
Right.
I'm paraphrasing there, right? But go watch the interview again. Jada, she explained it very well. She talked about a lot of different things that happened throughout their marriage before they got married, her starting into Hollywood, the whole thing. And it really made sense to me in terms of, again, when Will and Jada's first allegations started happening, well, they're getting divorced, and it was people focused on their marriage for some reason for such a long time. And it's really, again, none of our business.
Right.
Not
None of
one
our
bit.
business.
Exactly. But for them, and only because she was able to share it, she said, I had to remove myself. And that meant, going to live my life and making me happy and figuring out what made her happy so that she could get to a version of her being her whole self. That in itself is a journey. But again,
Right.
I think you're right in that when we're looking at people to relate to and engage in relationships, we're sometimes looking for potential and we're looking for people in different phases of their life. And they may be at a phase where at that moment they know what it is that they want. 10 years from now, are you able to still love and be in love with that person if they are confused or unsure about what it is they're now that makes them happy?
Right.
Right? Can we still have a healthy relationship, a healthy marriage? And then sometimes that may look like, what, it just ran its course, right? Whether we grew apart or we grew in separate ways or whatever, however you want to describe it. Having those conversations, we need to normalize that.
We need to normalize it. Yeah.
I'm hoping that the young lady that from the video that we saw, you said her name was Kelly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kelly. Yeah.
I'm
Kelly
hoping
Steele.
that
That's it.
okay. I'm hoping that they got quite a few times throughout their marriage. It sounds like 30 years. That they got quite a few times to reflect back on who they were as a person and make modifications and changes as they needed to grow as individuals and then of course as a unit.
Right. Because I was also listening to Iyanla,
Yeah.
and she said after 14 years, she told the person she was with, I don't like the way you love me. And I don't
Mm,
want it. That's a lot because it's like you can tolerate and put yourself to the side, like, all right, I don't like that, but I'll deal with it.
yeah.
I don't like that, I'll deal with it. Okay, I'm telling you, I'm dealing with it, but I don't like it for so long. And then it's like I guess she just got to that point where she was like, I don't like the way you love me because if after I done told you, after I done said it, after I done showed you, and you still feel like the way you love me is sufficient, then you're not the person.
Yeah.
And just imagine making that normal, saying like, you know what, you're just not that person.
Yeah.
And it's like, and it's okay because I'm not that person either that was just okay with the bare minimum.
Yeah.
And sometimes you could be in love so much. With my first relationship, I was so infatuated with this girl so much. It wasn't until we broke up that my eyes literally opened, and she gave me the first gift she has ever bought for me for the 3-4 years we was together. And I never paid attention that she had never paid for anything, took me out to eat, paid a bill, nothing. It didn't even register to me until that day when she gave me the gift. I said, you've never given me anything.
Mm.
And I'm a sentimental person. You can give me a rock with a story behind it, and I'm gonna hold on to that rock, and I'm probably gonna die with that rock. So I'm not that hard to please. But just to know that she gave me a button-down shirt and like 2 pairs of Scooby-Doo socks.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wow. And it also crushed me because I'm like, how all of these years I never even paid attention. Because you're so busy wanting that other person to, and then too, I didn't have good self-esteem back then, anyway, because it's like I didn't even care what type of love you gave me, just as long as you gave me something, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so I understand. And I had to get to that point where, you know what? No, I'm good. And whether it's in a marriage, in a friendship, sometimes you have to like, listen, I don't think we can be friends no more because you have not shown me to be a good friend, and I've shown you to be a good friend.
True.
I've had to have that actually had that twice, 3 times. And yeah, I'm okay with us not being friends.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I had when you were talking, remembered a relationship that I was in for quite some time, actually. And I remember being in that relationship, and I was saying to myself, like, the things I want out of life, I know that you and I are not going to be able to have.
Mm.
And I clearly said to myself, I'm like, how the fuck am I going to get out of this?
Wow.
Like we were in a relationship for such a long time, and I didn't know how to get out of that situation without hurting the other person, right? And trying to minimize my hurt as well.
Yeah.
And I know we stayed far longer than what we needed to in that relationship. I'll admit that on my behalf. And if I would, to ask her, she's, clearly she's moved on. We both have moved on. But I think there's little nuggets or little things that happen to us throughout relationships, whether it's with a partner or a friendship or a family member or whomever that person is, where we look back and we take an assessment of that relationship and say, you know what? Again, is this serving me at this point or this phase of my life, right? And then you can say yay or nay. Just miss that person, let them go on. It's no love lost, right?
None.
And even the person I'm talking about, that I wish the person well. I really genuinely I wish her well, but I knew at that state in life that she and I we had run our course, and we stayed together like maybe 3 or 4 more years after that. Like
Right.
And we wasted each other's time.
Wasted each other's time.
And I'm regretful of that.
But all things work together.
Yeah.
And it's like, even with my second ex, when we realized that, this ain't going nowhere, we made a date October 1st. And we loved each other up until then. On October 1st, I went my way, she went hers. And that's how it's been.
Yeah.
Like, I'm dead serious. I'm like, no, we're okay. October 1st is done. Like, I don't know if that's just how cancels work. When we're done, we're done.
Yeah.
And we're gonna smile about it. Like, no, it was good. I'm sorry. I just absolutely right. And you would never be able to be in that place again. Never.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't care. Never. But I just think that's such a healthy place people can get to, such a mature level people can get to where they are okay. If a person decides to leave, let them go.
Yeah.
Because I think you get more pain from staying. It's a picture where they got the rope and they said, if you just let go, it'll loosen up. Like, if you could just let go sometimes, you're like, you know what? It was more hurtful to stay.
Yeah.
It was more hurtful for us to fight to be in it.
Absolutely
Than
right.
us just to be able to walk away.
Yeah.
I got more hurt fighting you to stay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's just for a mature relationship. If you're in an abusive relationship, get your ass out of there as best way you can.
Yeah.
And that's on either end. Emotional abuse, mental, physical, psychological, all of those abuses.
Yeah.
If you are experiencing those type of abuses, get out the best way you can.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so here's another a little caveat. How is it that you're the person that's hurting you're the person that's hurting or causing harm to your partner, but then on the flip side, you also have to be the person to love on them and to help them heal through that. That is difficult. To be the person causing the pain, and then now you have to sit in it with them to offer them some grace and to help them heal.
Well,
That's a horrible place to be.
it is. It is. And I know I'd say I've been in a lot, but I've been there. That
Yeah.
was a big part of me and Shay's
Yeah.
relationship. So I know what that feels like.
Yep.
And that's the same thing if you cheat on a person. If you want to work it out, you're sitting there to have to nurture them through what you caused.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes a lot. And you can't rush it, but then we can't sit here for years either.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people think that's insensitive, but it's not. It's like, listen, I can't, you decided that you can move forward with me. I decided to make a conscious decision to do right from this point on without and give you all be transparent as you need me to be. But I can't be a slave to that old deed, because for true forgiveness is the willingness to forget.
Mm-hmm.
And if every time you see me, you get some type of knot in your throat, I need to leave and we need to go our separate way. I'm not going to sit there and ask you to kiss my ass, and I'm not going to kiss yours. But
True.
what I am going to do is ask for you to give me grace to do right. And don't hold me if it smelled like it was going wrong. You ain't even give it a chance to go wrong. The wind blew and you thought I messed up.
Mm-hmm.
We can't do that. And some people try to work, and I think that's probably something they went through. Like, I would love to ask her, how did you recover knowing everything he's done willingly in your face to put aside? That's a level of forgiveness. That's that Jesus forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
Now I think I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
I got to think about it sometime, to where you can love him even more or the same after all of that. Like, that's a question.
Yeah.
I'm like, you got to tell me, because you telling me you ain't want to slit his throat while he was asleep. I know you woke up crying at some point.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't want to just like poison this food, nothing. I'd have been feeding him all kind of antifreeze slowly.
Yeah, no, I agree. And again, for me, from my perspective, from what I saw, based on what the young lady shared in the video that we watched, I completely commend her. Again, because I don't know that I would have had the same level of grace to offer my husband in doing all, the things that he was doing. And that was just some of the stuff that she shared. Now, rest and to be assured, there are some things that he has not shared, I believe, right, with her, that I don't know that they could have or would have maybe come back from. And
What about the
I'm just
children?
speaking from the outside in.
Yeah.
There's always something that you're gonna hold for yourself, right?
I'm taking this to the grave. Like, it ain't happening.
You can share 97% or 95% of your life, yourself, with your partner. I feel like 5% I should be able to keep to myself.
I need
somewhere
to.
in that 5%, yeah, it's some stuff you ain't gonna want to know about.
And I'm not going to sit here and go through it with you.
Yeah, that's for
but
me.
it's like, I understand the effects that it had on her, but just imagine the kids watching this. People think kids are dumb.
Yeah,
they see all of it, and I'm pretty sure they heard her cry. I'm pretty sure they heard the argument. I'm pretty sure they heard something. How
saw
do
his
you?
absence.
Yeah, it's like, how do you? And children, sometimes they be like, I don't respect you, and they hold on to that. And it's like, I commend them for where they are. I hope that she is getting everything that she ever prayed for, wanted, and more.
And thank God for them sharing this story.
Yeah, because I would have been telling his story as a biography, not an autobiography.
Yeah.
Would have been had a Lifetime movie about this.
Yeah. Listen, and there's plenty of them out there. So,
Exactly. A Lifetime movie, a Hallmark movie. It would have been all kind of stuff. It would have been
absolutely.
on Snap, 48 hours, everything. Cold case, he done disintegrated. Like, child.
Absolutely. Well, listen, we are wrapping up tonight's episode. This has been a great conversation.
Mm,
Again, this has been recorded, so we would love to hear your 2 cents, your perspective. If you've seen the
yeah.
interview, please share your thoughts about the interview in terms of what we discussed here today. If you have questions, then certainly send them to us. You can DM us, or you can put them on our timelines. We do talk back. And
Yeah.
I posted the suit. So last week we had a discussion about the suit that I wore. That everybody came over and they wanted to talk to the suit, right?
Yes.
So I posted a video. Go check it out on our TikTok and our Instagram.
I
If
want
you
to
would come
see
over
the
and talk
suit.
to me wearing that suit, drop me a line and let me know. And we can go from there. Do you have anything else? Do you want to share before we?
No, I hope that we do get feedback. And if you have a
Yeah,
story that we can do a part 2, because
yeah,
we want to help people understand the levels of growth in love, relationship on all aspects. And we would love to hear your story.
yeah, yeah. I agree. 100. Okay. All right. Well, we are going to end this episode next week. We hope to be the coach and I will be together. We don't know what that show will look like, you know. I know Friday night we have an event planned. So look for us on social media. If you are here in Columbus, then certainly come over, say hello, what have you. Until then, I'll see you next week, Friday.
Keep a regal mindset.
Absolutely. We love you.